All right, welcome back. We are ACI Course 11, Class 10 on February 12th, 2026. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about emptiness and karma, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow your wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that intention, we turn our minds back to our precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, please, please teach us that. And they're so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the pure world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayers to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings totally awaken for the benefit of every single other. Now, in last class, we ended with that beautiful set of verses where Master Shantideva is identifying the source of all pain and the source of all happiness. The total amount of happiness that exists in the world has come from wanting to make others happy. The total amount of suffering that exists in the world has come from wanting to make myself happy. What need is there for many words? The children of the world work for their own sake. The able Buddhas do their labor for the sake of others. Come and see the difference. So Master Shantideva is in his meditation chapter, and he's been talking about the object of meditation, not the technique of meditation. And what he chooses to teach us about is equalizing and exchanging self and others. So we've spent, right, 3 classes on what that means. And in Gyaltsabje's commentary, thank goodness for commentaries, he's helping us understand this sequence of Master Shantideva's verses so that we can decipher his meaning a little bit more deeply. And then thank goodness for Geshe Michael to decipher Gyaltsabje for us. And then I'm just being the parrot for Geshe Michael to you. So next, right, we're doing another class, but Jetsung or Master Shantideva, he's still right on a roll. Realize he's doing this all in one teaching, right? This whole text is this one day's teaching. It's quite extraordinary. So let's go to his verses. So Gyaltsabje says that this next set of verses that Geshe has put all together into what he calls Contemplation 29. Gyaltsabje says this is verses in the category of learning about the problems that come to us if we don't exchange ourselves with others. So Dakshan Jewa, the doing the exchange. if we don't exchange ourselves for others, there are problems that we will experience as a result of that, some of which we can't see. We can't see the problems, and then we don't see that they are problems, and we don't see that those problems come from the self-cherishing versus other cherishing. And so he's going to go through the problems that we have that we don't see and the problems that we have that we can see, and then how doing the practice overcomes those problems. So that's where we're supposed to go tonight. So here are the ones that are the problems that we don't see when we fail to do this exchange. If we fail to practice perfectly this exchange of my own happiness with the suffering of others, I will never reach that enlightenment. And even here in the cycle of life, there is no happiness. Forget the goals of the world beyond. Even in this life, none of the things we hope to achieve will come about. Those whose duty it is to serve me will do none of their work, and those masters I serve will never pay. So if we are in situations like, under the surface of others and they don't pay us the way they're supposed to, or we have others who are supposed to serve us and they just don't do their job, or we just can't seem to get the goals of this life to work out the way we want, or what did I just do? Get that there. Oh, come on. There we go. Or I'm just not having any happiness, or I'm not seeing any progress in my spiritual life. Gyaltsab J is pointing out that Master Shantideva is pointing out that the reason for all of that is that in the past, I have failed to practice this exchange of my happiness for others' happiness. And it's challenging to me to hear that. Mm-hmm. So there are these two attitudes that we can have. One is called Rong Chen Zin. The other is Shen Chen Zin. I'm actually not going to do very much vocabulary in this class because of the time. But these are two words that we will come up with in future classes. Rong Che Zin comes out as Rong Chen Zin. Rong means self. Che Zin means holding, like grasping, holding, self-cherishing. Self-cherishing is what comes out of self-grasping. Self-grasping means me exists as an independent thing. Self-cherishing means so that me and its needs are the most important. So Rong Chenzen is called self-cherishing. Shen is other. So other cherishing. And he's making this distinction, right? They're opposites, basically. Our self-cherishing attitude is this watching out for number one first, which our belief in self-existent me says, well, I have to do that because nobody else is gonna. And I have to stay safe. I have to stay safe in order to take care of other people. Right? And that's valid. And it's forced on us, right, by past deeds. And we'll use it as an excuse to not push our envelope of the benefit of other cherishing. Because it's not easy to do this practice of exchanging self and others. So the first problem that we see, or that we will have as a result of our not exchanging self and others, is that we won't reach enlightenment or any other spiritual progress. We won't see any progress happening, or we see very little progress happening. And for sure, we won't reach our total enlightenment. He doesn't say this life, future life, but the implication is until we do this practice of exchanging self and others, whether we do it in this life or future lives, our enlightenment won't happen. Total enlightenment won't come about until this shift has been planted, until we've been planting our seeds from this shift. So he's calling it the problems we won't see, because we won't see getting enlightened. We won't see gaining spiritual realization. We just won't have them. But we also won't recognize that the reason we're not having them is because we're not exchanging self and others. Like, we can't see that connection either. Geshe-la says there are people who, like human people, like other people do, who never meet the Dharma in their whole life and never meet any kind of spiritual teaching, not even interested. There are others who have met a spiritual teaching, whichever, and they're interested, but they find themselves in the position that there are so few teachers and the centers are far away from them that they don't really have access. So their interest has ripened, but not able to pursue it. And then he says there are others who do get the teachings and are able to practice and have been doing so for a long time, but just aren't making any progress. And so they get frustrated and disappointed and bored. And, maybe they give up, or maybe they just continue in this disappointed way. And he says, and further, there's the kind of person who suffers from this problem, not cherishing others. And those are the dead ones, right? The ones that had the opportunity in this life to do so and didn't, and now they're dead. And right, their mind is so different. It's their same mind stream, but its circumstances are so different that the likelihood of even meeting a teaching that says there's a benefit to exchanging self and others is so unlikely to happen for a long, long time. He says the same obstacle is happening for all those different categories of people. It's the failure to practice this exchanging self-cherishing for other cherishing. And he says if we don't get teachings on this, we will never figure it out, because it's just too foreign to a mind that's still driven by its belief in a self-existent me. So it does not mean the instant we hear this teaching about exchanging self and others, that we should go right out and give our car to the first hitchhiker and give all our money to the first hungry person. Not that. Geshe always points out that a well-educated Bodhisattva plans their virtues out very conscientiously and does what they need to do to have the tools and resources for when that opportunity comes along. And then when it does, you jump in wholeheartedly, right? And use those resources. You don't just at the drop of a hat. So it's really learning to take care of others in a mature and responsible way, in which we are just putting others ahead of ourself in every opportunity that we can. Like most of us are probably already doing that to some extent. You know, when I was still in medical care and dealing often with people with chronic pain or chronic fatigue, and often it was women, and often the circumstance was that they were caregivers, to families, parents, neighbors, right? They really were very giving, very naturally putting others ahead of themselves. Having the great seeds to be attracted to doing that, but not having the wisdom of understanding what, why, and how. And then they're having their right or ordinary mind, self-existent me demon being resentful of everybody who appears to be taking advantage of them. So they got sick as a result. And it's just this really funny contradiction about this really very, very high practice that was they're struggling with, because we just didn't understand why the seeds were ripening those amazing opportunities. And so instead, it ended up with resentment. And it didn't have to, but it did. And they were sick as a result, and their ill was not in their head, right? So I'm not saying that at all. But as we're learning these practices, and if you're like me, you're automatically comparing it to myself, oh, if I've been like that, we're supposed to do that. And if you're like me, you find yourself falling short, right? We think the worst of ourselves. And then, it's like, yeah, but I have put myself behind everybody, but I did it for the wrong reason. I did it to please them, or I did it to, I don't know why. And then because I had the wrong reason, it's given me a different result than what it could have if I'm doing it out of this level of wisdom. So keep that in mind as you are hearing it and you're comparing your own circumstance, right? Don't hear this as criticism. Hear it as opportunity to think of the ways in which we already care for others ahead of ourselves, and then how we might bring more wisdom and open-heartedness to those situations. So we can learn to make this shift in our perception of where happiness comes from, so that our own urge is to make this exchange, not because somebody said so, not because there's some obligation, not because they'll hate me if I don't do it, but out of this deep wisdom of this is really what I want to do, to plant the seeds for helping me come to see myself as one who can help everyone stop their suffering ultimately, which is what we say we want to do. Okay? That we're trying to grow our bodhicitta in this chapter. Our bodhicitta is, I want to reach my total Buddhahood so that I can help all beings get free of their suffering. So this is what he's addressing. How we plant our seeds to grow that bodhicitta from a wish, right, into an intention, into a determination, into an actual realization and experience. So he says we won't gain any spiritual goals if we're not working with exchanging self and others. Number two, he says, we can't even achieve the goals of this life if we keep on cherishing ourself first. So if all we want is financial success, a good home life, nice vacations, exchanging self and others is still the smartest thing to do. Take care of others first, self last. And the seed ripening results of that will force us to see ourselves getting the things that we believe will make us happy. Then they say, start now, because the older we get, the more we have taken care of ourselves first, and the harder it is to experience the shift of the goodness of making the change. So as we age, things get harder. We learned before, anger makes that happen. Now we're seeing that self-cherishing makes that happen. And it gets harder and harder to stop self-cherishing the older we get, because the more it seems we need for our own comfort. But really, it's the number of seeds planting self first that is the problem. And we can't see that. We can't connect those dots. So he says, even if we're crazy enough to not be interested in enlightenment, we still want happiness in future this life and future lives. And the best way to bring that about is to do this other cherishing. And our minds go, if I only bring happiness to others, how am I ever going to get happiness? Because every time something comes to me that would be mine to make me happy, I'm going to give it to somebody else. And so, right, we'll never eat the donut if we just keep giving donuts away. But if it makes somebody else happy when you give them a donut away, and then you have another and another, and it's so fun to give donuts away. Do we get to the point where I don't even want one, right? I don't even want to eat one. I just want to give them away because everybody gets so happy when you give them donuts. Like that. Did our happiness come from eating the donut in the first place? No, the only way that that donut gives us any pleasure is somehow that we've given somebody something that gives them pleasure. So we can kind of get it. Yeah, ideally anyway, how it giving to others first will bring us happiness, but we'll be in this time gap for a while where our mind will probably say, I haven't gotten a donut in so long and I've given away so many, right? We're going to actually address that later in class. Master Shanti Deva said, well, then you haven't given away enough yet, even if you think you have, if you're not getting any. So we say Oh, but wait a minute. Like we know or know of people who are very wealthy and don't appear to be particularly generous. And we wonder how can this karma thing be true if really stingy people are really wealthy and then they continue to be stingy? Doesn't make sense. And yet our intellect, we know the answer. Their current wealth is a result of past generosity, and their current stinginess will make them lose that wealth or not have it in the future. And then maybe our compassion would grow towards them a bit because we would see them using up this thing that seems so valuable to them, and that someday their mind will be without it and how terrible it will suffer. Another question I always have is those very wealthy people, are they happy yet? Because if wealth is the source of their happiness, then you'd think by the time you got your wealth to a certain amount, great, I'm happy now. But it's not human nature to ever be satisfied. So when we say, well, there are wealthy people that are stingy, so this can't be true about exchanging self and others, we're really not talking about getting wealth. We're talking about happiness, being happy. So this class isn't about proving how karma works or even that karma works. We've all gone through those classes. If you need a refresher, you go back to the karma course 5, and go through it, or use your own logic. Once we understand that everything I experience is a result of a cause, we can work it backwards and devolve the 4 laws of karma from just that much understanding. So in our worldly life, we tend not to hear people say, gee, I want a promotion. Who in my office can I get a promotion for? Right? So that I can get the promotion I want. Rather, I want a promotion. We go competing with other people who want the same job and do what we can to make ourselves look the best for the job. And it's like, so are you saying, Master Shantideva, that when I want that job, I should go find the person who also wants the job and sing their praises to the boss? They're going to get the job. Karmic suicide, we say. But it's not. Do that again and again and again and again. And Geshe-la says before too long, you'll be offered the boss's job in the same company or some better one, who knows? Right? But we're doing a kindness must bring about a positive result. How long a gap is there going to be? However long it takes until you see the result. So we just keep planting the seeds until the result happens, and then we keep planting the seeds to keep the result happening, right? We know all that. So it's really radical to hear a teaching that says, you want a promotion? Go find some way that you can help somebody else get a promotion. It doesn't have to be the promotion you want that you have to give away. Maybe you go to your teammates and they need a new team captain, and right, you find out who is it that wants to be the team captain, and you sing the praises of that person to the rest of the team so the team chooses them as the team captain. Anywhere. someone can be lifted into a higher position than they're in, qualifies as planting seeds for our own promotion. It doesn't have to be exactly apples for apples, as we know. Okay. So somebody apparently asks, well, look, if somebody, if we're taking care of others only so that I can get what I want for myself, isn't that still self-cherishing, just on a more subtle level? And it would be continued self-cherishing if we are losing our goal of our bodhicitta. Okay? If we are other cherishing in order to get our own goal, and our own goal is a worldly goal, they're right. That's still a subtle form of self-cherishing. When we're using our other cherishing to propel our spiritual progress towards our own Buddhahood so that we have the omniscience that we need to be able to know and be what others need to reach their own happiness, then our using what our worldly benefit, subtle self-cherishing would have been, we're using it for this higher goal. So we need to keep our bodhicitta motivation in mind as we're using this exchanging self and others within the arena of our daily life. The highest aspiration we can have is to want to reach our own Buddha paradise so that we can help everybody reach theirs as well. Because in doing so, we also achieve our omniscience. And both of those need the wisdom side and the method side. And the method side becomes method side because it's motivated by our love and compassion colored with wisdom. So those two together are what's necessary to reach that state of being able to help others in an ultimate way. And the way we grow the seeds to be able to reach that is to do this exchanging self and others practice for the seeds that we need. Geshe-la says, when we are practicing Dharma purely, it will force pleasure onto us. We will not be able to escape it. Again, there's a time gap, but the gap will shorten as we continue to build up that practice, that pure practice of the Dharma. What makes it pure, of course, most pure is from the realization of emptiness. So after direct perception of emptiness, at the higher we are holding our motivation as we're doing our deeds, right? The more close to pure Dharma we are doing. All right. So self-cherishing is just this habitual state of mind that says, that says, in order to get that promotion at work, I need to promote myself and somehow keep my whoever is in competition with me down a little bit. And that's our natural action reaction, and everybody agrees with us. And so we use the fact that everybody agrees with us that that's what we're supposed to do to say, to verify, yes, that is the right thing to do. But of course, it's the mistaken thing to do. If it works and we get the promotion, it's only ripening results of where we help somebody else get ahead in the past. If we don't get the promotion, it's the ripening results where we interfered with somebody else getting a promotion in the past. There's no other way that it can work. So we catch glimpses into the kinds of behaviors on a day-to-day basis that we can do that are different than what our habitual self-cherishing me says is the right thing to do, the proper thing to do, the human thing to do. You know, that I'm not saying that we would go and, I don't know, take the air out of somebody's tires so they miss the meeting for their interview. I mean, we would never do something like that. But maybe we start a little rumor or, right? No, you understand. So Geshe says, the best way to get to bliss is to give away our small happinesses. Like, can we give away happiness? Technically not, but can we try? Yeah. If it's nice for you, for somebody to bring you flowers, then, okay, I'll go take flowers to somebody. Just because I know it's nice. Do I necessarily know it's nice for them? No, I don't. And maybe if I take flowers to one person and they throw them back at me, I won't take flowers to them next time. Maybe I'd somehow figure out what they would have preferred. But how else can I try than just figure, well, as a human, I like this, I don't like that. They're human, I'm going to try. Or we could be so bold as to say, I'm going to bring you something. Would you like flowers or a cup of coffee? Which would you prefer? And then do that. It's our seeds that we are planting. So he goes on, the Master Shantideva is going on, and Gyaltsab says that he's going on showing us the problems of self-cherishing that we can see. So every single harm that comes in this entire world, every fear that comes, and so too every pain that ever comes from grasping to myself. What use for me then is this, the single greatest demon? Until the day that you give up your own self, you will not be able to stop the suffering. Until the day that you let go of fire, you will not be able to stop your hand from burning. So he's using this analogy. Like, suppose we're holding a red hot coal in our hand and we're screaming, my hand is burning, my hand is burning. Somebody make my hand stop burning. And, those holy beings are saying, let go of the coal. And we can't do it. For some crazy reason, we can't do it. All we had to do was drop the coal and probably stick our hand in some cold water. The coal that we're grasping to, so like clinging to, that hurts so badly, is this belief in our self-cherishing, the belief in me that makes me cherish it. Self-cherishing. Until the day we give up that self, we won't be able to let go of that coal, they say. And, it's a long story what it means to give up the self. can we give up the self in terms of it goes away completely? No, that's impossible. It's the self-existent self that we're working on identifying so that we can show ourselves, not so that we can let go of it, but technically so that we can show ourselves there that in fact there's no such thing. Right? There's nothing to let go of. But until we prove that to ourselves, we've still got something there we're clinging so hard to that it burns our hand, gives it this exquisite pain, and we can't drop it. Do you see how mixed up it is? How do we give up something that doesn't even exist? The belief in it exists. How do we turn that belief off? You know, we believe in Santa Claus, we believe in Santa Claus, we believe in Santa Claus. Something or somebody finally says something and it's like, oh, that belief is gone. Maybe it was doubt a little bit, but once it's gone, it's gone. Until Santa Claus shows up in your life and then, whoops. But same with self-existent me. Yeah, it makes sense. There isn't one, but I still act as if there is one. And how do we get it to stop? How do we stop that belief? And until we do, we will act in ways that perpetuate our own suffering. In the moment, no, because whatever we do in this moment doesn't bring what comes next yet. But we will, it will hurt us. Everything that we experience that does hurt us has to have been a result of whatever we did colored by our self-cherishing. Because if we weren't colored by our self-cherishing, we wouldn't have done that thing that's ripening as a displeasurable, unpleasant result. It sounds like a circular argument, but it's not circular in the sense of then meaningless. So we're not just talking about physical pain here. Anything unpleasant that we can be aware of is a result of deeds done colored by self-cherishing. Anything that we don't like in our world. So he said, our self-cherishing is the greatest demon. And it is a potent foe. He says it's something very wrong to look with eyes belonging to another and work for only my own goals. It's wrong as well to look with eyes working for them and to do something that's not right. I think we need a commentary. That's cryptic. Therefore, I should make all other people first priority. And anything that I ever find, upon my person, I should take away from me and seek some way to make a use of it for other people. I'm going to go back to explain these. I just want to give them to you. Oh, that's it. So remember, we are talking about developing our bodhicitta to grow a direct perception of it. And that direct experience of the heart opening bodhicitta is almost as life-changing as the direct perception of ultimate bodhicitta, direct perception of emptiness. And for someone whose goal is Buddhahood, it is as necessary, as critical. Geshe-la says once one has had that experience, seeing the face of every existing being and loving them, is how he describes it often. When you're out of that experience, you know that you will spend like every, hang on a sec. That you will spend every moment of the rest of your forever in the service of others, benefiting others. You'll have a sense of being a slave for all existence, a servant of all existence. And he says, and you'll be happy about it. As if, oh, finally, I know what I'm meant to do. And the scriptures say, until you've actually had that direct experience, let's pretend that we have. And let's pretend that we have this, oh, finally, I've met my meaning in life. And that is to be the servant of all. And how wonderful it will be to be able to finally step into my true role. Let's just pretend. And he goes on to say, you know what? That was the fine print in us taking our Bodhisattva vows. Maybe you didn't see the fine print, but when we swore to reach Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings and to avoid these deeds and to do those deeds to get there, this is what we were saying. And then we have a prayer that we say every day, most of us, to reinforce those vows. He says again, this is what we are saying. We are doing, not just aspiring to do. Like I'm born into the family of the Buddhas. Let me uphold my family. It means we've been born into the servant, right? Bodhisattva servanthood. And, if that sits weird in our heart, then we just have some exploring still to do for ourselves. Let's take our break. So whoever's doing the recording, delete all that, please. Sorry, I didn't think to stop it, Janet.
I don't if you want me to do it because you asked me and you're my llama, I will do it. But it will only be for this class. I have all the other ones yet to do. I mean,
If there's any course that you are ever inspired to complete, have it be this one. But don't do it now. Okay?
the course I want to complete is ACI 13.
Well, there you
That's the
go.
one I want to complete because I don't know how to do analytical meditation.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'm not sure it'll teach you, but
well, I
we'll
mean, I
give it a
can't even
try.
talk
It's
about
coming.
it. How do you even do it if you can't even, well, you say talking about it is part of the problem, and then I would just want to cry.
Oh,
But,
I'm sorry.
Well, no, I mean, it's like we want to analyze things, but then the way we talk about things is what's creating our whole situation.
Mhm.
And I don't know.
Don't despair. All right. So those couple of verses, Master Shantideva is reiterating. Geshe Michael explains when we have this direct perception of that bodhicitta, another thing that we will recognize is that everything that we think that we own and have, we recognize it's really not ours at all. That we are the caretakers of all of that stuff until we come across who it is meant for. And then when we meet that, we hand it over, we give it away. And like we're ready on this moment's notice. So and so shows up. Oh, okay, I have those for you. Here it is. And they say, even the clothes, you're wearing your favorite socks and you come across somebody, and I don't know how you would know that those socks are really theirs. But somebody who needs socks, you just say, okay, here, right? I've been taking care of these for you. Here, they're yours. Give them right back. And it's a whole different mindset because we work so hard for the things that we have, and then they're mine, and then I'll give them away when I'm good and ready, not because somebody shows up and I know that, oh my gosh, this is for them. Uh, it, at Menla House, so years ago, my parents died, and then we went and cleaned out the house, and my dad had all these tools, and then, so we took a lot of it home with us, partly because we were still attached to it, but partly because it was stuff that could be used. And then we had it, and we took it with us to Diamond Mountain. David stashed it all away, and son of a gun, there'd be something happen and somebody would need, I don't know, this green bolt that's a certain size, and David would go, I think I have one of those. And he'd go rummage around in the garage and he'd find it, and he'd go and solve the problem. Like he was doing that constantly with all this weird stuff, most of which was stuff that was things we'd carried with us, multiple moves. And all of a sudden, there it is, exactly what was needed to fix a leaky toilet, an hour's drive away from the closest hardware store. I don't know how he did that, but it's like that, right? When everything that we have is available for what's needed next, all of a sudden we have what's needed, even if we didn't know that that's what we had. It's just wild. So, but this attitude is, I'm just the caregiver, the caretaker of all this stuff. But it's true too of our own body in a sense, right? This body that I think is me and mine, and I have to take care of it. It's actually the tool that I have to take care of those masters that I have, yeah, who are needing my help, or technically they call it, even they own me, they own my time. And so that verse about the eyes, it's apparently interpreted to mean that typically when somebody asks us to do something and we feel too busy to help them, we do something with our eyes that go, what, are you crazy? Or we roll our eyes at them. And he's saying, don't make funny expressions with your eyes when your master asks you to do something, because you know what? They could have just told you to do it, not politely asked you to do it. And so who am I to roll my eyes about somebody wanting me to help them? And it really is, I recognize in my own expression, right? That it's like, oh man, be careful there. In my response to when Sumanti needs something from me, I don't see my eyes, but I can feel them. And I figure he can see, right, that my reluctance. So Master Shantideva is just pointing out that it's a hint that we have this sense that, yeah, I'll do it for you, but out of the goodness of my heart, not feeling this rush to fulfill our purpose in life, right? Feel the difference? So he goes on to point out that there's an actual method to learning how to interact with others in this really different way. Is that not going? Doing the actual exchange. Make those who are inferior to you, and so on, be yourself. Make yourself now none other than the others. Practice this with a state of mind that is free of ideas, the feelings of jealousy, competitiveness, and pride. Oh, that's all he says about that. Okay. What he means by that is that for self-existent me, when I am with others, automatically, habitually, I compare myself to them, and I come up with either they are better than me, or they are equal to me, or they are somehow lesser than me. And automatically, hot on the heels of that, if there's someone I see as higher than me, like I'm going to treat them with a bit of respect, with a bit of, I don't know, admiration, maybe. I'm going to treat them differently than the one who I see as equal to me. I'm going to be a little competitive. Self-existent me is going to be competitive, wanting to get the edge up, wanting to look a little bit better. And then if I'm seeing myself as better than them, our self-existent me makes me be a little condescending, a little arrogant, right? A little deprecating. And this teaching is saying, recognize that we do that. Like self-existent me does that habitually. We're not bad that we do it. It brings about an unpleasant result, of course. But first we need to recognize that we're doing it. And then we can recognize how we then feel towards the other, and recognize whether we are respecting them or competing with them or feeling superior to them, and then recognize how my interaction with them reflects that feeling about them, and then recognize what is it like to be the one on the receiving end of my behavior like that. So the one that I see as higher than me, I'm treating with some respect. I'm trying to please them, right? I'm trying to be especially kind because somehow they're more important. And then, right, me on the receiving end of that is like, well, this is nice. It's nice to be respected. It's nice to be helped, right? It's nice to be taken care of. And then when I'm in a competitive relationship with somebody and I put myself in them and go, what am I like to them when I'm being competitive? Like sometimes competition is a really good force, right? It's really powerful and it spurs both of us. Maybe that's how my competitiveness is with somebody. But also competition with another, right, can be colored by jealousy, right? Pushing them down, or by wanting to overpower them. because, right, we're so close together. What is my behavior like? Like we can't know it for sure, of course, but we can imagine that we put ourselves inside them and witness our own behavior. And then we decide, is this pleasant or is this not pleasant? Because if it's not pleasant, my own mind is seeing me behave that way, and somebody's going to behave that way to me someday. And I just showed myself that I won't like it. So do I want to let myself continue to do it? And then same with the arrogance. What is my arrogance like? Because me may be saying, no, like I'm trying to help them. I see what they need to be helped. Right? We justify our arrogant behavior because we see there somebody who's in helping. But what if we put ourselves in their position, and is it coming across as arrogant and I know better? Or is it coming across as, no, I'm here with tools and resources to help you? Which would we prefer? So this is how we grow our ability to exchange self and others, by pretending we can be aware of the impact our behavior is having on another. It's not enough to just be aware of the impact. We have to decide to do something about it if we think it's unpleasant for them. So they give us these like guidelines. When we see someone as better, we respect comes up. When we see someone as equal, that dakshanyamba comes up, right? Equalizing. But in a worldly way, it's more like partnership. But partnership can lead, as I said, to whether I'm a partnership that I want to get the one up on, or am I happy with the equalness of our partnership? And then when we see someone lower than us, we can work to bring up compassion instead of the arrogance or the I know better, or I'm in the better position than you, so you have to listen to me, that kind of situation. What we tend to come up with is jealousy towards the one we see as higher. And in our jealousy, we justify somehow interfering with their success. Or with competitiveness, we see them the same, or these that we see the same and we get competitive instead of cooperative partnership. And in the see them as lower, we tend to get arrogant and pride. So when we recognize that we're having any of those situations, that's when we recognize, those aren't the seeds I want to replant here. And so we can choose our behaviors differently. And what we would choose is to act respectfully towards the ones that are higher, to cultivate partnership on the ones that we see as equal, and to act with compassion towards the ones that we see as lower. Why? Because I would rather receive those kinds of interactions with others who see me as higher, or who see me as equals, or who see me as lower. Okay? When we're in those positions, how do we want to be treated? So this is the practice of the exchanging self and others. Recognizing that how we interact with others, how it affects them, and care enough to act towards them in a way that we're going to try for it to be pleasant for them. Even when we're needing to do something that corrects them or needing to do something that, straightens out a problem, to still consider carefully how are they likely to perceive this. Will we be correct? Probably not. Can we get close? Probably so. Will we make mistakes? Probably yes. The effort is so different than what we usually do, which is we act and then we're concerned about what impact it had after the fact instead of before the fact. Okay. So there's a series of verses where Master Shantideva is trying to explain this process of put your mind in them and see how you are and decide whether you're going to act that way based on how they're going to perceive you. And Geshe-la says it gets really confusing in trying to translate it to follow who's in who's being talked about here. In the end, the Gyaltsab will say, there are 6 things that everybody wants. And I want to show you those words. Here they are. Kirti means respect, honor. Everybody wants to be treated with respect, with honor. Nyepa is to receive material things. And I'm not sure if it means to have our material needs met, that sense, or just how nice it is for someone to bring you a gift. Doesn't have to be valuable, just because it means they thought enough about you, right, to go out of their way to bring you something. That's pleasant. Then tupa means to be praised or to be complimented. Dewa means happiness. Everybody just wants happiness. What happiness means is unique to everybody, but we can all agree that whatever it is that's happiness, everybody wants it. And then lemepe dewa, it means specifically this position where the happiness where you can relax while the others do the work. I don't relate to that one particularly. I want to be doing the work. But there is a kind of satisfaction when you can relax and things still get done. And then the last one is Jakpa, which we know from Loksam Jakpa, means fame, to be well known. And I don't think it means everybody, wants to be known by everybody in the world. But within our sphere of influence, we would like to have a good reputation, I think, right? They're saying everybody wants that. Now, maybe within your sphere of influence, what it is to have a good reputation is, you're the best one at swearing or you're the meanest one, right? It's not necessarily always saying, right, you're famous for something virtuous, but just the idea of being well known, fame. Apparently, there's something about all of us, they say, that wants that. I don't know that I agree. But it's a clue into how to treat other people. If our career path is bringing a little bit of happiness, to everybody we meet. Here's some very simple ways to do that. Act respectful. You know, if the circumstance is right, bring them a little gift. Praise them in some way. Gosh, your eyes look so blue today. If that's the only good thing we can come up with, right? Plant some little bit of happiness in them. That one's not specific enough. If it's true that people would rather be the ones not to do the work, well, then get up and do the work. Clear the table before the hostess gets up to do it. Or, right, rake the leaves before your dad tells you you have to. Or, right, all those little ways that we've probably all grown up figuring out how to do. And then Drakpa, fame, well known. I don't know, that's not so different in my mind than praising people. But somehow help people feel that they're well liked or well known. Maybe that one's a little bit harder to do, but it's an interesting clue about how to cultivate how to be amongst other people. If I'm trying to bring them a little bit of happiness, I don't know if they like red flowers or yellow flowers, but I probably know they like to be complimented, or I probably know they like to feel respected. Can I make that my task when I'm in their presence? It is a form of exchanging self and others because of the seeds we're planting by intentionally giving them something that our own me would like. One more shift here. This one should receive the honor, but not us. We should never get the things he always does. He should bask in praise and we should be belittled. He should have all happiness and we the suffering. And we can read this verse in a couple of ways. We can say, oh, this is what a bodhisattva would be saying to themselves. Or we can say, a non-bodhisattva is thinking of this, right? We can look at it as whether we're talking, anyway, I think you'll get the idea. The bodhisattva is putting others ahead and says stuff like, I should be belittled, he should bask in the praise. And it's not that you as a bodhisattva need to be belittling yourself. The idea is that we so naturally or habitually belittle others in our mind, maybe don't come out and do anything based on that. But if we have the mind habit of seeing others in that way, our own mind is aware of it, which means at some point we'll be experiencing someone else feeling that way towards us, even if they don't act that way. We should be the ones who have to do all of the work, and he should sit in perfect pleasure, leisure. Throughout the world, he should become the great man. We should stay inferior and known as knowing nothing. What's the use of having no good qualities? We'll all strive that they have them all. There do exist those compared to whom this one is inferior. There are also those compared to whom we're highest. The state of our morality, views, troubles, and the rest is forced by affliction, not by choice. So this is that string of verses that's showing us that our habitual way of treating others higher than us, equal to us, below us, is what's perpetuating the very perception of us below, us equal, us higher. And as long as those mental afflictions are still driving our behavior towards others, we're going to perpetuate this pattern of, right, always being in this juxtaposition with others. Kind of implies we don't have to have that kind of comparison between us. What contemplation's coming up here? $34. You must care for us by using all your strength, and we should too willingly take all the hurts. Are we not, though, someone you should care for? Why is it that you belittle us so? What use would we ever have for the qualities that he has? And he is a being of qualities. He lives in the savage jaws of the lower births. He has no compassion for living beings. Even worse, his delusion that he possesses higher qualities seems hoping to pollute the wise. Oh, that's pretty strong. What's happening here is that suppose there is a professed bodhisattva who's going around doing their professed bodhisattva deeds with a kind of arrogance or holier than thou type attitude. And then when they're not in the presence of those they are bodhisattva-ing about, they talk about the ones that they are helping in this way that belittles them or criticizes them. All right, it shows that in truth, their heart is not in their bodhisattva deeds. They're doing them for some other reason. And Master Shantideva is pointing out that any professed bodhisattva that whose true colors are that they're being so judgmental of others and making themselves be the bodhisattva in order to get puffed up in opinion of others, that person is actually like in the savage jaws of the lower rebirth. What the others are saying, if that's what it is to be a bodhisattva, thank you, we want no part of it. So what he's pointing out is, I guess we could fool ourselves in our bodhisattva behavior, where we're being on our best behavior in certain circumstances, and then in other circumstances, when maybe we think nobody's watching, we are the same old selfish, slob, ignorant, me first person. And those we are trying to encourage to be bodhisattvas, they can smell it, Geshe-la always says. And then, they'll say, if this is what it is to be a bodhisattva, if it's to be like you, no, thank you. Right? And how awful. How awful. Right? I really, really hope I don't do that. He's pointing out that it can happen. A little bit scary. no matter what, we must see to it that all the good qualities which we have are spoken all over the world. We must, moreover, assure that what good qualities he may happen to have are known to no one at all. Again, he's pointing out what not to do, right? What our habitual human self-grasping me does, which is if there's someone with good qualities, I'm not about to tell the world about it. I want the world to be told about my good qualities. And of course, what's that going to do to my good qualities if I'm refusing to tell others about others' good qualities? My good qualities are going to fall short, right? And of course, any faults that we have must be hidden away. Offerings must be made to us, but not to him. We must gain with ease, and now the things we want, and we must win all honor, but not him. Again, pointing out what ignorant human self-cherishing me does. I don't want anybody to see my faults, but I'm happy to tell you all about theirs. I want to gain what I want without having to work very hard. But that other person, no, they have to work hard to get what they want. I'm not about to help them get what they want. I'm not about to work hard to get what they want, because I don't even want to work hard to get what I want. I want it to come to me easily. Same with honor. Yeah, I'm not about to honor him, that other, our ignorant human mind. Whereas Bodhisattva mind, it's implying, does the opposite. I will refuse to speak to the faults of others. I will reveal my faults. I will make offerings to the others. I will go to great effort for the other person to gain things easily. I'm happy to honor these others. Our self-cherishing prevents us from doing those things. Our other cherishing, our other cherishing, like makes that bubble out of us. We're probably somewhere in the middle at this point. When something wrong befalls him, all of us will watch a long time, feeling a kind of joy. We'll assure that he becomes a laughing stock for everyone, derided in all circles. This is pretty pointed, given his audience was a bunch of monks that put him up on that throne to embarrass himself. Like, I imagine those in the audience that were part of that group were like, right? Their teeth are probably chattering out of what they're hearing him being aware of. Because I imagine they were thinking they, like pulled the wool over his eyes or some way. So again, as ignorant, selfish humans, we're happy to see somebody have some kind of trouble, and we will even watch it happen and replay the video and take some kind of perverted happiness in it, especially if we don't like the person. And then we'll even tell people about what happened in an amusing kind of way, right? Telling a amusing story on somebody else's, like pointing out their fault. And we do it so habitually that, we don't even know not to do it. And we probably are part of somebody else doing it. And we don't have an awareness enough to go, no, wait a minute, right? I don't want to listen to a story like that that's laughing at somebody else's problem or laughing at somebody else's fault. It's so ubiquitous in our culture, it's hard to recognize. And it's been there since Master Shantideva's time and even before. So it's part of our seeds, of course. If you had at some point in the past undertaken this very action, then it is completely impossible that you'd be living like this in something so opposite to the excellent bliss of Buddhahood. Meaning, if up until now, we had already been other cherishing, other cherishing, other cherishing, we could not be experiencing ourselves still in samsara. So it's as if somebody has said, yes, Master Shantideva, I understand, but I've lived in the monastery since I was 7 years old. I've been everybody's slave since I was 7 years old. I don't do anything for myself. I take care of everybody, and I'm still in the position of taking care of everybody, and I don't get what I want, and blah, 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 blah. And Master Shantideva's answer to him is, right. Lifetimes before you didn't do that, or you wouldn't be in a position where you're feeling that you've put yourself in the position of being a slave for everybody and you're not getting a good result. The only reason we could have that is that in the past, we didn't put ourselves in the position of being a slave of everybody else and enjoyed it. So there's a difference there. We can be slaves of everybody else, and probably we all have been in that position, and it was not pleasant, and it didn't result in pleasant results. It perpetuated samsara because we didn't have this wisdom to choose that position and to use it, right, to create the karmic seeds that would continue to grow our wisdom, that would open our heart to our full-on bodhicitta, both the heart-opening kind and the direct perception of emptiness kind. So it's not just put yourself below everybody and become a slave. It's because of wisdom, put myself in the position of serving, 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 serving. Even if I'm the one that owns the slaves, to still be the slave owner who's serving those slaves. It's like, whoa, you can't do that. But of course, they could, couldn't they? When the seeds ripen from self-cherishing, born of understanding, it's impossible not to get good result from that. How long is it going to take? Can it look like I'm not getting a good result because I'm doing that, I'm doing that, I'm doing that, and I'm still hungry all the time. I'm still, right, don't have enough clothes. Yeah, because of the time gap. Right? That time gap will shorten. How long will it take? Depends on our seeds. It's so slippery because it sounds like, the answer is always seeds. Right? But it is. It's true. The answer is always seeds. How are we doing in time? As such, we must become accustomed to thinking of others as we do of yourself, of myself. When I believe that a couple of drops of semen in blood belonging to someone else could ever be the person I call myself. He doesn't have anything more to say. So our mind was saying to him, yeah, I get it theoretically, putting others ahead of myself. But you're actually calling it exchanging myself for others. And I can't do that because this body is me. I'm limited to this body. Remember, we talked about that before. And they are them. And I can try to make them more important, but I can't actually exchange myself, right? Because I'm me and I'm in this body. Mm. And he points out that actually this body is not me. This body is stuff that originally belonged to somebody else, right? Semen and blood, the blood of the mother, the semen of the father is what has replicated, and is still being replicated along with the food substances, etc., that make this body. We have this body, but we are not the body, right? Our subject side is part of that mind stream aspect of us. So why do we limit our sense of self to this edge? We do for all those reasons we said before. Well, because I feel it here, but not there. Right? All those reasonings we had before. Now we can go, oh, maybe I do consider somehow this thing as defining me. And that means yours defines you. And that means we are separate. And that means I really can pretend or imagine that I'm putting you as more important than me. But when push really came to shove, it's like, no, I've got to protect this thing in order to be here, in order to go on helping that other one. Okay? And at that point, we are not able to give up our flesh, to give up our own body on behalf of another. It doesn't make any sense to do that if we are still limiting ourselves to think that this is me. When we drop that, if we could drop that, it means we're relating more the me-ness to be that subject side of every projection. And that allows us to expand our sense of me to include others' bodies, right? Even if we can't go so far as to include their me's into our me, we can include their body, in which case we would more naturally take care of that body that's their me is inhabiting at the moment with this greater caring compassion, similar to when we were talking about the equalizing self and others. Right? So exchanging self and others now actually becomes expanding self to include others, but it doesn't mean your body, right, gets bigger and subsumes them all. It means our me does. And then it becomes more like a we or an us, and yet still with the this side of us and that side of us, and all together, right? We're helping all of us plant and replant the seeds that will perpetuate all happiness, perpetuating all happiness. But we won't be able to do it until we recognize that this thing that's actually made out of somebody else doesn't limit me to me, because it's not even me, it's somebody else. That's a hard one to quite catch. I don't think I have completely yet. He says, so let me command myself to work for every purpose, acting as if I were the least of servants. He is by his very nature wrong. Refuse to praise him for some small accidental good. See to it that any qualities which he does have aren't detected by anyone else at all. He's again saying this is what we do habitually, so let's do the opposite. Almost done. The more it is that you take steps to do what you must in order to care for this, the body of yours, the more it is that the body descends into nothing more than a state in which it can't bear pain at all. And the fall is such that even if you were able to get everything that was desirable on the surface of this planet, it would never quench the desire. Who then is it that could act to give you all you want? When they cannot, then this desire brings on mental afflictions and the lessening of the thought. He's pointing out here that when we say, I, I, I want that promotion, and then I want the fancier clothes that go with having that promotion, and I want to eat at the fancier restaurants that goes with the reputation of having that promotion. He says, ask your body, does this body you? Is that really what your body wants? And it's like, no, my body wants to sleep in. My body wants to eat pancakes. My body doesn't want to work hard and be that fancy person all dressed up. Like there's something about something other part of me that wants all that stuff. And I make my body do the things it has to do to 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 bring that about. And he says, right. And as we put that body into those positions where we make it do the things that we think we're doing on its behalf, what happens somehow is that that body just needs more and more of the things it wants to continue to be able to be like what I need it to do. I don't know if this is making sense, but it's like the more we think my me is this, and so my this me is who wants to be the fancy executive in the special clothes, the more the body needs things. But the body itself doesn't want or need anything. It needs food, it needs sleep, and that water. That's about all the body actually needs. But we propel it into these circumstances that then it gets harder and harder for us to be satisfied with the body in that position. So then we have to take it to get its hair dressed, and we have to take it to get its nails done. It doesn't care about all that stuff. We do, but we think it does. So he's pointing out this subtlety that we think we have to do all these things to serve this body, when in fact the body doesn't want us to bother. It wants to go to bed at 8 o'clock. It wants to eat. That's all it wants. The rest of it is all our own mental affliction, pushing us to some goal that we think is going to get us to some kind of happiness, that unless we're doing it with bodhicitta in mind to help others reach their ultimate happiness, all that we're doing is making suffering for ourselves and this poor body that's going along with us, because it doesn't have any choice, right? Our mind makes the body move. Karma makes the body move. Karma is movement of the mind. The body goes along. He's pointing out that a bodhisattva's relationship with this thing, their body, is vastly different than an aspiring bodhisattva, which is vastly different than a non-bodhisattva at all. And as long as we keep doing so, it will just get harder and harder to break that cycle. Let's see if I've got to the end. The excellent things that come to those who depend on nothing at all are absolutely endless. On the other hand, is desire for the body which grows forever, leaving you no other chance. He who has finished grasping to attractions has found the finest thing to possess at all. Let me go to the last one. Sorry, I'm past closing time, aren't I? The final destination is always the same, the dust. On its own, it's immobile. That means the body. Dependent upon another for its motion. This body is a thing of filth and merciless too. Why then do you hold it to be yourself? Whether it lives or dies, it doesn't matter to me. What's the use of this machinery, the body? What's the difference between it and a lump of rock? Why is it that I cannot stop my pride for it? In your worship of this body, you've piled up many sufferings, all of it meaninglessly. What's the use of this thing, no better than a piece of wood? Why the love and hate? Regardless of whether I continue to care for the body or whether the vultures come to feed upon it, it has no feelings of attachment or anger. Why then is it that I have this attachment myself? So, in order to clear away the obstacles, I must collect my mind to avoid the path that errs. Always then, I must place my thoughts in balanced meditation upon an object that's correct. The object that's correct is this contemplation, meditation on the power of equalizing and exchanging self for others. To meditate upon that on our cushion, we cultivate this growing conviction that the seed planting that we do from this state of mind of other cherishing is the seed planting that must ripen as our progress on our spiritual path towards that very goal that motivated us, reaching our own total enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. We can't do it perfectly when we first start. We meditate on it, get those ahas about it, spend time either on or off the cushion, imagining what it will be like to behave like that in circumstances of our own daily worldly life. And then we go off our cushion, out of our contemplation, and we try it on for size in teeny little ways in places where it's easy. So you don't have to go and take on exchanging self and others with your constantly angry, accusing boss. But we do it at the grocery store and at the bus stop and, in other places where it's easy to see others with respect, with honor, praise them, compliment them, bring them little gifts, to grow the seeds to be able to do it where it's harder, with the boss, at the workplace, wherever it's harder. We can grow the habit of it if we start small and persistently make some effort, is Master Shantideva's recurring theme. It just doesn't work to be selfish. If it seems like it works, that's actually worse, because we're getting the good result of having been unselfish in an apparent situation, having been selfish, and that will make us be more selfish, which will ripen as not being able to get what we want. And then we'll feel totally betrayed when that starts happening. The only way that we get what we want will ever come to us is by helping others get what they want. The only way that anything that we have wanted has come to us is that we've helped others get what they wanted in the past. We are all getting things we want often, I'm guessing. It's a big rejoiceable to say, wow, I've helped others get the things they want in the past, because things do come to me easily. And now I see why. I see how I want to behave towards others more clearly in order to perpetuate a world where everybody can make the seeds for getting the happiness that they want by just trying to plant some happiness in somebody else in these little moral, ethical, human ways. We've all done it before, so we can do it some more. So yes, our this me has basic needs. It's not being selfish to help others get their basic needs met so that our basic needs can continue to be met. It's okay. And once our needs are met, decide, when is that enough? Focus on my needs met so that I can then take those needs being met and use them to help others get their needs met. Needs and wants. There's really nothing sweeter to do, says Geshe Michael. And he says, please start now. Because we hear classes like this, especially if it's the first time you've heard them, and we tend to be inspired and getting glimpses. And if our mind says, wow, cool, amazing, great, I'll get to it later, right? It dilutes it. And then we hear it again the next time when it comes back later, and our mind goes, yeah, I've heard it before. And we don't have the same kind of opportunity to really step in. So I encourage you to do what you can to step into this consideration of the benefit of exchanging, of equalizing, and then is exchanging self and others in this stepwise fashion. Okay, thank you for the extra 10 minutes. Thank you for finishing ACI Course 11. Thank you in advance for your homeworks and quizzes and meditations. And you can teach me the review class on Sunday. And anyone not giving is welcome to come to class. So don't feel excluded, please, anyone. And anyone on the recording too, who wants to come to class, please do, because that's our audience. All right, everybody okay? Recording, stop recording. Thank you again for the opportunity.